everyone, and welcome to Steve Tea with Elsayed podcast. This is our first episode, and I'm very excited to have a very special guest for today, Dr. Satinder Brar. Dr. Brar is a well-recognized professor both nationally and internationally. She is the first James and Joanne Love Chair at Civil Engineering Department at York University. Actually, Dr. Brar have received too many awards and honors, both nationally and internationally. She has published over 500 publications, 11 books, 4 patents. Her research in the area has a lot of impact on the field, and her research on biopesticides and biofertilizer has been applied in many countries worldwide, such as India, Thailand, Mexico, and many others. I'm very glad to meet my friend, Dr. Brar, today. Hi, Dr. Brar. How are you doing?
Doing fine, Dr. Albishbishi. This is really a good initiative.
Okay. I'm really glad to have you on our first episode because you are one of those world-class researchers that everybody is looking for and wants to hear from you. But the first question, did you get your steep tea for today?
Not yet. I would love to.
Okay, we have our own recipes. It's a very special recipe. I hope that you're going to like it, so you can try it, and then tell us if you like it, or we should make some changes to the recipes.
Sure, why
By
not?
the way, what is your favorite drink?
My favorite drink
Yes.
is coconut water.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe a combination with coconut water and steep tea would make something.
Exactly. I'm sure, sort of a probiotic. Why not?
Why not? We can try.
Yeah.
How is your memory? Can we refresh your memory?
Sure, go ahead. Rake it as much as you want.
Yeah. Let's take you back a few years, 10, 15 years back. What inspired you in the environmental field?
That's a good story, actually. You know, I keep telling myself as well, because I am a trained chemist. I did my bachelor's in chemistry honors, and chemistry was my favorite subject in high school as well. Okay, and then when I went on to do master's in organic chemistry from a very reputed institute in India, and I was all lined up to do PhD in organic chemistry. However, when I was doing my research training during master's project in organic synthesis, I started asking my PhD mentor some questions, which sort of irked the mentor because he did not take it, as he should. And he said, no, you shouldn't bother about solvents, where they're going. Our job is to synthesize something with high yield and efficiency. That's what a chemist does. Okay. So then I thought this is not the way to go. Of course, green chemistry was perhaps taking its, ground as well at that time, but it was not developed to a great extent. So I would say the entire chemistry was not so good. So I thought to myself, I need to get training now in environmental engineering. This question started popping up in my head, and then I had to start exploring because all options were mostly going towards chemistry. People even started advising me to go to polymer chemistry because that has more scope, You should do PhD in polymers. Anyway.
And jobs.
And jobs. Yeah, at the end of the day, and jobs. But then it so happened that I was fortunate enough, by God's grace and my parents' blessings, that I could get admission into a very reputed school, IIT Bombay, in environmental engineering to do masters. So I did my masters there. And chemistry always plays an important role. It is playing an important role even now in my career. I've not lost the connection with chemistry. It's just that I am looking at things now from chemical point of view and also trying to, sort of orient it in a more environmentally sustainable manner. So long story short, then I did my master's in environmental engineering there. And then, I went through the regular learning process along with research, what can be done to clean the environment. When you're young, you're a master's student, you think you can change the world, right?
Yes.
So I remember still the professor used to have a project with the textile industry, and we used to go to the textile industry to get their effluent,
Yes.
load it into the rotating biological contactor. And I used to think, oh, this will clean their entire waste away, which was never the case. So that was the starting ground, I would say. The seeds were laid there. And then I was not matured so far to do a PhD. So it so happened that I got recruited as a defense scientist from there. And I started my career as a defense scientist in defense research and development organization in India, in Delhi, in the capital. And there again, fortunately, the task that was given to me was on remediation of explosive contaminated sites.
Oh.
So that's where I then, I saw the importance of microbiology, which was, again, I've never studied microbiology in my life.
You've been a chemist and now microbiology.
Yeah, exactly. So I did start taking some courses in the university in the evening on weekends just to understand microbiology at that point. But more I would say I learned through experimentation because we'd started doing phytoremediation of explosive contaminated sites. And the way it used to work in defense, only the research scientists working there have access to the contaminated sites. So no university can directly be allowed.
So that was a big chance.
Yeah. So that's how it happened. And then eventually, anyway, 2 years afterwards, I thought I'm ready for PhD, but I would like to go abroad to do my PhD. So then I ended up doing PhD in biochemical engineering because I thought microbiology is important. I better learn it. This is my learning part of my learning curve. And so then I did my PhD in biochemical engineering. That's another, there is always a story somewhere, right? So I landed up in Canada as a permanent resident. It so happened that I applied for permanent residency when I was in India, and I was told it might take 3 years. Yes. So I said, okay, forget it. So we let it go, and anyway, I keep applying for PhDs. It so happened in 2.5 months, I got the permanent residence.
2.5 months?
Yes.
Wow.
So I landed up in Vancouver where I had my cousins, and I stayed with them. And so I was applying in UBC as well. I met one professor there in chemical engineering, and he said, you might have to wait for 1 year because he's applied for some funds, and 1 year was too long for me. Yeah. So then I started applying everywhere in Canada. It doesn't matter. Yes. I thought to myself, once you have left India, all Canada is same for me. That's how
Although Vancouver is a very nice place.
I know. Now I know.
Now you know.
So then I told myself, wherever the first call comes from, I will not mind the university also. It's just the time that was taking. So the first call came from Quebec City.
Oh. Okay.
And then again, I was sort of, I cannot, that's not the right term, but I would say my cousins started long discussions with me after dinner that, when you go to Quebec City, you already have a challenge, you move to a new country.
It's a big,
big and move. You will have a language challenge also there. And climate. The weather is extremely, cold. So I told, my argument always with them was, it's always better to deal with all the problems together in one go. Let's do it. Okay. It's okay.
Although it's not the researcher way of thinking about the problems.
No, but still, I thought, so then they said, you should better stick to UBC if you get here. But anyway, it didn't happen. I told them I can't wait for 1 year. I will go there if I think that I cannot continue. then I will see. But it's history now. I continued my PhD, and I think it was a very good learning curve again, because I could also learn French.
Okay,
You know,
so,
so I learned French as well when I was doing my PhD. Of course, the French was not at all that good, even after 4 years of PhD. It was comme ci, comme ça, as they say in French. But I took one challenge on myself, that I will do my defense in French. I told my professor, and he was scared.
Yes.
He said, no, you have enough other things.
Challenges, yeah.
Don't think that you can do it. I said, no, I will practice. I will make the slides in English, speak in French. I will practice, and one day we will get to it. And anyway, so the day came, I did my defense, and one of the examiners...
But that was a big decision, because, okay, presenting in French, it's okay, but receiving the questions and answering the question in French, this is...
That was mixed, okay? One of the examiners was specifically asking me questions in French, but I was responding in a mix. Okay, because some technical words, I didn't know the translation.
And they understand.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then eventually I moved to do my postdoc at McGill with NSERC postdoc scholarship. And then the stay also there did not last long. I had to go back to Quebec City again. As a faculty.
Yes.
And yes, so I continued there for almost 14 years. There. And then I moved to York in 2019. And yes.
Yeah, that's a long journey.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to move from Vancouver with that weather, and then you go to Quebec.
Yeah.
So what was the big shock that you got there when you...
Of course, I got both the shocks, because I couldn't even say hello, bonjour. Hello, at least people understand it, they will reply to you. But then I think my first challenge, this is something I can never forget, because I rented this room and I went to buy my grocery. To the grocery store, and I have to buy things. Whatever you can pick is good. But then I had to look for spoons and ladles and all that, and I couldn't read the aisles because they had written in French.
Yes.
So I went to the person, the cashier, and I said, I'm looking for this in English. They couldn't understand anything. And you cannot imagine, I took a tissue paper, drew the spoon and the spatula and the ladle and the pan. And I said, I want this. And then he guided me towards it. That was my, first experience, not knowing French.
Yeah. I remember that when I first went to Quebec for a conference, and they went to Tim Horton to ask for my steep tea. I just was speaking in English, and they don't understand. They didn't get the point. So I have to explain the things in more details. And the end said, we don't do a steep tea here in Quebec. So that's why I don't go to Quebec.
But they have poutine.
Yeah. Maybe this is something. But going back when you were a child, did you thought that you're going to be an environmental specialist or a professor when you were just a little kid? Or?
Of course, I cannot recall, but my mother tells me, when I was 4-year-old, and I used to, because by virtue of what I should say, my background, my dad was in Air Force, so we moved around in the country a lot. Like every 2.5 to 3 years, we were moving states. Also. So we were in the south when I was 4. I'm born in south of India, and I was 4-year-old going to kindergarten and coming back. You come back early when you're in kindergarten, right?
Yes.
So, and I used to get bored in the house. My mother would be busy cooking, and dad would not be home still.
No computers,
and I was alone.
No tablets at that time, no phones.
So they had this small garden. Yes. And I would take a stick, and whatever my teachers used to teach me in the school, I would be, So my mother said probably that sort of steeped, the what I should say, the feeling or the inspiration in you that it's good to become a teacher. But there is another thing. That is what she thinks. But I think I was very lucky at that age, which I didn't realize at that age. We were renting a part of the house from a professor. And the professor was staying in the front part of the house, and he was an agriculture. There is a very good college of agriculture there, and he was an agriculture professor. So when he had to do serious stuff, so from the back side, there were stairs which were going up to the terrace, and he had this, nice library there, and he used to sit and write serious stuff there. And I sometimes, just out of curiosity, kids, I used to go there and sit with him, and he would say things to me, which I don't know if I understood all of them, but sort of, made me interested in what he's doing and how he does things. Maybe, I don't know, something trickled from there, okay? Who knows? Or it's his blessing, because he was quite a senior professor, I know at that time, and I don't know from where it came, but that's where I can make the connection.
But that brings, sometimes we have people in our life that is really have very positive impact on our career. If you take me through your life during maybe the undergrad or the graduate studies, do you remember any professor that has stayed in your mind, that has have a positive impact in your career?
Oh, yeah, many of them.
Yes,
many of them. But I think more vividly I can tell you is one I had for stereochemistry. Stereochemistry in organic chemistry is a very tough subject in itself, because it has a lot of 3D involved. And nowadays it's easy to show 3D models, right? We were using those sticks and he used to draw on the board with the chalk. And he was a very serious professor, Professor Wadia. Even we have a dedicated video now to him, because he's 90-year-old. We celebrated his, completion of his career at the university. And the way he used to teach stereochemistry, I don't think I could have learned. That subject is so tough. And then one more thing, which all of us, I'm sure my classmates would also remember, is if you're looking down, the chalk will come to you. He would break the chalk and ask you a question.
Always stay alert, stay with me, stay with me.
Nowadays we can't do that, but I just remember those moments really, with him. And he used to give us a lot of surprise quizzes. And any odd day, we used to think maybe we are making a nice graph, for when does the quiz actually happen. No, it would change, the day would change. And I still remember there was this one day when I think the entire class of 35 failed in the quiz. Entire class, And what was his punishment? If you fail the quiz, he will not teach that day. And that was really bad for us. He will just walk out of the class.
That's a new strategy.
I know it's pretty strict, but I think that is an old school, but it worked. I'm sure none of us would forget him anytime.
God bless him. So if you look outside the academia in your life in general, if there is any person that came across your life that really had a positive impact in your career, or it was mainly the academic people, professors?
No. I have had, it's not just academia or research or subjects which are molding you. So many other feelings and character building is more important. And I think many people have contributed to that. Parents are always important for everybody. It starts always at home, but yes, I have this friend of mine. When I was as a scientist, defense scientist, she was my boss. So she was quite senior to me. She was my boss. I was a very junior scientist there, and I used to be scared to go and speak to her. Beyond just showing the results and. But she would always make me feel comfortable. And we would discuss many things beyond just research. and friendship blossomed, I would say. And even up to this day, whenever I go to India, I have to go and visit her.
Oh.
If she comes to know that I'm visiting India, it's
sure that
it feels she really. Even my parents ask me this question: did you meet her?
What is
Like
her name?
in
I'm
person.
curious because
Yeah.
when I go visit India, I might think.
Sure. She would even with the same fervor she will treat you.
Oh.
She's such kind of an individual. Okay, Dr. Shipra Mishra. She's an analytical chemist by training. She did her postdoc in Harvard School.
Okay.
So in her situation, she wanted to stay in US, but her husband did not, so they had to go back. Anyway, but she's a gem of a person, and she really taught me many things, always helping others.
Okay,
Always putting others before her.
First.
Yeah. So whoever went to India, I have to say this. Once I tell her, please take care, I don't even need to ask after that. It's that kind of, hosting she does for the person. Like, I don't have to keep asking, did you meet them? Did you bring them? She would go beyond what I'm saying.
Yeah,
even.
those people always, they are in our life, and they don't know how it's important, their treatment to us, and how that affects our life and inspiration. But we used to have those things whenever you are at any stage, you feel this is the most challenging stage. When we're in the high school, I want to finish the high school. Same thing when you are undergrad, I just want to graduate.
Yeah, exactly.
And during your PhD, oh my God, this is the craziest one.
Yeah.
So I know that every maybe stage in our life has its own challenges, but after we finish it, we have some good memories and some tough memories as well. So if we look at the graduate study stage in your career, definitely you have some great memories and some challenging memories. Do you recall some of those challenging memories?
Challenging or the great ones?
Let's start with the challenging and then...
Okay. I think the challenging memory for me, it started because I have done 2 masters. One was in organic chemistry, one in environment. So when I was doing my masters in organic chemistry, when you do synthesis, your reactions fail. And you have to start over from scratch.
Oh.
And that starting over takes 3 weeks.
Oh.
Going back and then again. And then again, it may fail because the yield may be low. And my professor, my supervisor there, he was director of the institute. So apparently he couldn't find time for us, And and that institute is too big. When I say it's National Chemical Laboratory, so many scientists are working there, some faculty is there. So I was being mentored by this PhD student, and let's say the reaction fails, and the PhD student would not show up for 3 days, and I am coming every day because I have to finish my masters.
Yes.
Then I am telling myself, what should I do? Because if I restart the reaction, and maybe still I'm going in the wrong way, it will end up same fate. And you couldn't contact anybody by phone at that time. We used to live in residences and you have landlines. Okay, so either you should know the number to the residence where he lives, and then they have to call his room number, and maybe he may not pick up. All those things.
Yes.
So I had to, those 3 days, then I had to go to the library and read myself if there's some change in the reaction I can do which can help facilitate. But by the time I would come back with the learning, the mentor would be back and he would say, no, this is wrong, you have to do it this way. So my synthesis part was challenging. That was the challenging part, I would say, my master's there. But when I moved on to IIT, and I was doing this rotating biological contactor, and since you are an environmental engineer, you understand keeping the rotating biological contactor, the biofilm intact, is one challenge.
Big challenge.
Yeah. So, like my friend started their master's project very late, but I started from day one as I joined my master's because my professor told me the biofilm formation will take 1 year. So keep feeding your reactor, you know. So I remember, like, I couldn't think of going anywhere because I had to feed the reactor.
Yes,
So,
your baby.
Your
This is
baby,
sometimes
yeah.
saying, okay,
So I remember my friends used to make some plans, and I had to forego those plans because I had to feed it.
Okay.
Okay, and I think once even the biofilm, despite all the feeding, it broke, and the system also broke. Then it had to be restarted. So I lost almost 6 months of feeding, you know. So this was, but it was again, like, I think whenever you go through these challenges, you learn.
You learn a lot.
You know?
Yes.
So
Making you.
I think resilience creeps into you.
Yes, I agree.
In a way.
I agree. Okay, let's move now to the good
the good part. Good part, I've been very fortunate to have very good classmates who have been good friends, I should say, you know.
Okay.
And we keep in touch even now. And my time in master's in chemistry, I have had friends, you know, because I was the only one who was going through that mentorship kind of problem because my professor was not around. So they would always cheer me up, you know, even if those reactions would fail, and it's okay, one day we will finish. And when I moved to my master's in Bombay at IIT, I had this very good friend. She was my neighbor in the residence. In IIT, she was my classmate, Qasim. At the end of my master's, I even started calling her Saint Qasim for a good reason. I will tell you why. Like, for example, we will have an exam, okay?
Yes.
We have midterms coming up. So in IITs, it's a culture. The libraries are open 24 hours.
Oh.
They give you coffee there. So stay
For free?
put. Yeah.
Oh, they
stay
don't give
put.
us tip tea?
No. Stay put and study all night. Okay. And I preferred studying in the room. I can never study in a library though. So what she would do, because she would not study in the morning, and I couldn't study in the night. So she will study in the night, and morning wake me up that you have to study now.
Okay.
Because she knew that I would put the alarm, and sometimes
we're making
the manual alarm, you know. So one day, I think we had our wastewater engineering exam, and that professor was pretty strict. He used to give us a lot of problems to solve, mathematical, you know, on design.
Numerical.
Yeah, numericals. So she said, you really have to do it today. So she woke me up, and I slept again. She came and she woke me up 3 times. I can never find a friend like this.
Yes.
I have to tell you. Insisting, you know, and persisting.
Just only mom can do that.
Yeah.
Not friends.
Yeah. And then one more, and there are many incidents, I think, but this incident is very, you know, vivid in my mind. We had, you know, somebody, because we have this hostel, they call it hostels in India, and we have the mess. So that's a common eating area for the students. So there was this girls' hostel where we used to be there. And we came for lunch together, both of us, because we had our experiments running. And somebody suddenly fell from the chair. So unconscious, okay? So we took this girl to the hospital. Inside the campus, we have the campus hospital. And she had, my friend Qasim, she had an interview with a mining industry for a job.
Big thing for her.
Okay, placement, in the placement cell. So I told her, you can go now because I'm here and the doctors will take care of this person. She didn't go. She said, you know, jobs will come and go.
Wow.
My God, I was...
Wow, that's...
Now you understand?
Yes.
Saint Qasim.
Got it, yeah. Got
so, yeah. But really, she taught me many things, you know, how to be human.
I can see the tears in your eye when her name comes. Yeah. Some people have that thing in our life, and we are blessed when we have such
Exactly.
such people.
Yeah.
But going back, you mentioned that during your PhD, your supervisor was quite busy because his duties and jobs. So How was your relation with your supervisor and PhD supervisors, and how that reflected in your way of treating your students?
I think the relationship during my master's was also very good. Especially, I would say, when I was doing my environmental engineering, because the professor was very helpful, my system, when the system broke, the RBC, it's not that he told, some PhD to go and help Satinder. He came there and he tried to explain to me these things can happen, so we can rectify this. And he also explained to me that how you can make the industry understand that why there is a delay, which I was scared of, how would I, because you have certain milestones with the industry to deliver.
Yeah.
And as a student, you wouldn't know, you can't go and that means I didn't do a good job. That's why my system broke, right?
Yes.
So I think that is a very good nature I learned from my master's professor, that you have to, put somebody at ease, especially the student, because the student doesn't have the experience and insight into how it can be tackled. So that is, having a cool mind, let's call it this way, rather than getting angry. So that is something which stayed with me as, I think, a learning experience from them. And from my PhD supervisor, a lot of good memories, again, because, of course, we had computers. I did my PhD in 2000.
There was a computer at that time.
But he used to read the paper on paper. Because he said, I can pick more faults. Okay.
Same thing.
And what would he do? Because we don't get time during the week. So he will say, okay, Satinder, I'm coming now. I finished my lunch Saturday to the office. Let's spend 3 hours together. That way you explain sometimes some sentences I don't understand, and we'll finish your paper. In the weekend. Okay. So,
and you cannot say no. You can say it's a weekend.
No, but one way it was very good, because then I could get quality time and, get my work done. So I really appreciated that. And that is one thing. And then, of course, being friendly with the students to some extent, putting them at ease, especially here in Canada. They come from so many different cultures and countries, So I think that is something also which sort of stuck with me, that, how you have to treat everybody. But I would say it also goes back to my culture. In India, we all are a mixed population. So having traveled from one state to another was like traveling a mini country to another mini country.
Different culture.
Yeah. So that derives from there also. That ease comes from there. It's sort of, it's in the flow, because when I went to school as well, I had friends and classmates from all cultures. India is a mixed culture country, so. Yeah, so that was also another advantage. Yeah,
that's interesting. But I'm just always looking for that moment where we think, okay, I am gonna become a professor. Do you remember when that moment came to your mind? Because even if you start to do your master or PhD, it's not in the radar that you're gonna be a professor. But when was, if you remember that moment, when it was, I will be a professor? Or I want to be a professor.
I want to be a professor. Academia always intrigued me. So, I could not do a routine kind of task. It's very difficult for me to stay put on that. Okay. If you keep telling me that keep doing this analysis or keep putting this cup, at this place every day at this time, I cannot do it.
It is not.
So
kind of boring sometimes.
So I wanted something more dynamic and more driven.
Yes.
So when I looked at my professors while going through masters as well as PhD during the graduation, I saw that their life is really fulfilled. So it's more than it's not just. It's mentally fulfilled. Let's call it this way, because your curiosity is driven every day. You sort of try to learn from everywhere. You have this openness, this flexibility, and even this humility. So that's there in academia, and I felt that make me felt drawn to academia as compared to any other profession as a professor. And I think we change. Another thing is we are, you're sort of building career for young professionals, young people. So that's, staying with them for a lifetime.
I agree with you.
Even if, let's say, you're not directly feeding into their career, but the training is going into it, right?
Yeah.
So, and building their character as well, because I feel now, I'm sure you're feeling the same way. After almost 17 years in academia only, I would say I'm feeling like sometimes I'm a psychiatrist,
Oh, not to that extent.
Not to that extent. But
we always say we are a trainer. So sometimes I tell myself, I'm a trainer.
Yeah, I know. No, but it so happens, Yeah. So I think that is also a good part of it.
Yeah, so it's once you do research and you get exposed to multiple topics, and this is explained why in your research you are doing multiple research topics. So coming back to your recent or the research interest for you, what are the main research areas that you are doing nowadays?
My research interests areas are mostly they are at the convergence of environmental biotechnology and decontamination. So the decontamination part or the contaminants part, you can say it originates from my chemistry love. So, I try to understand the fate and transport of contaminants, and that puts me into perspective in understanding the right technology which can now treat these contaminants in the complex matrices. That is that. And environmental biotechnology is, like I said, during my, learning journey, microbiology intrigued me, and I understand more and more. I'm still learning that it can really play a vital role in many of those, treatment systems. And you are also doing some of them. You understand. So environmental biotechnology is helping me advance the industrial microbiology aspect, you can say, in terms of environmental engineering. Yes.
Yeah, so, and nowadays there are a lot of trends and focus on the research, and I can see that you are doing quite well on this, increasing the value added product that we recover either from residues or wastes. Or can you explain a layman language, what does it mean that is increasing the value addition of residues?
Okay, in a layman's language, if I have to explain, I would say, for example, let's consider food waste.
Yes.
Okay, that's a very basic thing. I think everybody would understand. So food waste, when we talk about food, it provides us nutrition. So it has so many nutrients in it. Yes. Okay. Again, in the layman's language, it has carbohydrates, it has proteins, it has fats or lipids, whatever we want to call it, or oils. Okay. And now this is what is the food is food to us as humans. It is also food to the microorganisms. Yes. So now the food waste, what we call as waste, is not a waste, it's a resource. So that food waste becomes a food residue, and now it can be fed to the microorganisms. The microorganisms can feed on it, use it as a nutrient source, and transform it into something else. Because each microorganism is like a factory, Okay. So it can take the food waste as a substrate, as a raw material, and transform it into something else, which is more value added. So that's the path of value addition. I hope I tried to explain it.
I like that expression of explaining the biomass or the microorganisms as a factory that you are feeding with substrate and then you are producing something. And maybe that's why we are calling them bioproducts.
Yeah,
coming
exactly.
From
coming from biological systems.
Yeah, and I think that there are a lot of effort towards enhancing those technologies for recovering value-added products from wastes or residues. So what are the cutting-edge technologies on that sector nowadays?
The cutting-edge technologies, like if I have to say here in the Canadian perspective, for example, let's consider we have a lot of lignocellulosic material, residues in the forest. The pulp and paper mills have sawdust. Even the timber industry has a lot of waste. Even otherwise, the infested wood lying around in the forest is a waste, so-called waste or a residue. So taking up these lignocellulosic residues and again, microorganisms, feeding on them through fermentation and transforming them into enzymes. Okay, enzymes again being, catalysts.
Yes.
Interesting catalysts for many kind of chemical reactions, even in chemical synthesis, or even in the degradation of many contaminants, if we still stick around in the environmental field. So that is something which I would call as cutting edge, as well as I would say that using some of these, like I know some researchers, they are using these ways, the lignocellulosic, trying to separate the lignin. And now lignin is being, used either in the pharmaceutical industry or in some other way to make polymers. Okay, and as a biopolymer, lignin is being treated. So these are certain things, I think, which is going to be cutting edge. And as well as we all know the meatless meat story, right? So, growing meat, rather, okay, on the Petri. So that is also another advanced biotechnology, though I'm not there, but I'm just saying that is one classic example. Yeah.
Yeah, but okay. So there is always a challenge regarding those, I would say, the biological processes for converting the residues or the biomass or the waste into a value-added product, which is the economy of those technologies. So that's what we always say, okay, it is not economically visible. What was the argue for that? Is it economically visible? Some of those technologies are economically visible, or no? It needs to have the government support and subsidies.
Definitely, the government subsidies, like they have provided in biodiesel, is another good example. Is very important. Having policies around it. Like let's take again the example of lignocellulosic in Brazil. Since the 1970s, they have had this bioethanol. It's nothing new, okay. But in North America, it has never picked up. It starts, loses ground, and then again restarts, and again loses ground somehow. So that means the government support is not there in terms of, otherwise in terms of technology, it's not something, which needs something extra than what Brazil is doing.
Yeah.
Brazil is also producing bioethanol from lignocellulosic residues, and we also have lignocellulosic residues here in Canada. Yeah. So economy normally for any of these bioproducts comes through, like in a petroleum refinery, you need to have a biorefinery approach.
Yes. So
all the side streams need to be, in some way, if possible, valorized or circled back into the same stream, so that no product ends up anywhere. And of course, nowadays people are also doing the LCCA. That's a good concept, which is being done around many of these technologies, which I think sort of helps place these technologies in the cost and environmental context.
You mentioned to biorefinery. So how is the biorefinery concept being advanced to maximize the value addition?
Okay, biorefinery is maximized through sort of any side stream which is maximum, like in terms of volume or in terms of concentration of a particular product, then that is being fed into another stream. Okay, let me tell you an example. For example, we have the lignocellulosic-based biorefinery. So in the lignocellulosic biorefinery, sometimes the cellulose also comes out, still stays undegraded, unused. So then that cellulose can be moved towards nanocellulose. And we all know the applications of nanocellulose are vast. Yes. Pharmaceuticals, they really need the nano. We know NCC, nanocrystalline cellulose, right? So that is just one example, but you can likewise have many others. Like I spoke to you about lignin. Yep. So lignin is now even touted as for batteries. They are thinking if it could be, used even for making batteries. That's something which is probably utopian at this point, but the research is advancing towards that. Yes. Yeah.
So we keep talking about mostly the substrate now. We give a good examples of substrates like the lignocellulosic material or the food waste. And then we have that factory of the or bacteria or microorganisms in general to produce what we call it bioproducts. Can you give us some examples of the bioproducts?
Okay. Yes, I think, again, here I can go back probably to my first valuable experience as a faculty, we had, there is this in Quebec province, and they are the largest producers even in Canada. They produce apple juice, Lassonde. You might have heard about, it's a company. It's not our Lassonde. Yeah, okay. Engineer. So they, I did not know this problem until I met them. That's what I try to inculcate into students as well, that whenever we meet the stakeholders, you should learn more from them and ask them questions. Because sometimes they know better than us what are their problems, right? So likewise, in this case, we went to the plant and they showed us around how the juice is produced and everything. And they took us to the right at the beginning where the apples are processed. They are crushed and the juice is extracted, filtered, and so on. Yeah. So they told us that 30% of the solid apple is a waste.
Okay.
And it contains seeds, some amount of pulp, some peel. And there is no value for it because it's sugar. They say they give it to the farmers. Farmers, if they desire it, they take it. But it's sugar. It gets putrefied by the time they transport it to their farm and feed
very
it.
Quick. Yeah.
And even for animals, it's just sugar. It's no high value. So they asked us if we could think of something. So since we had been working on environmental biotechnology, so we thought maybe we can convert it into fungal protein and then it could be used in animal feed. So we transformed it there. That's where the mini circular economy, if I have to put it rightly, was done. We brought the apple substrate. We fermented in solid waste to make fungi, to grow fungi, made the fungal protein. And after you extract the fungus, you're still left with the residue, which is digested now. Now that residue, then we had collaborations with the research development lab in agriculture who had experimental farms, and we fed it to the animals. And there was a significant weight gain in almost, I think, 2 months, 3.5 times weight gain when that hydrolyzed biomass was fed to them.
To the animal.
To the animal. So because it is hydrolyzed, and now there is some residue protein remaining from the, because fungi, you're not able to extract the entire fungus, right? 20% might still remain. And there were some enzymes. So it helped them reduce some metals they were adding to protect their immunity. So it really had a cascading impact. It was learning curve for us also to understand how it can all go. So there ends the cycle, the enzymes, and if the fungal protein can go to the animal feed industry, they can mix it with animal feed because they want protein in the feed industry. And if there were certain enzymes, they can be circulated back into the plant itself for clarifying the juice. Because we know that there are some juices, they have more cloud or haze, and there are other juices which are clear. So the ones that are clear, they normally use ultrafiltration, but you can replace ultrafiltration by enzymes.
I think, maybe this is remind me of the same concept of the bioethanol industry where they have
exactly.
So that's interesting. So talking about that factory, which is the microorganisms, you mentioned one of the strategies for improving the efficiency and using everything there. But, we always hear about genetic engineering. And when we hear that word, it plays a big role in everywhere. So how that genetic engineering can help advancing the value-added recovery from residues or waste?
Good question. I'm not a big fan, personally speaking, of genetic engineering, but still I can answer. That doesn't mean that genetic engineering is not advancing things in this field. Genetic engineering can help increase the product yield. Sometimes it could be increased by 10 times. So that is, industrially speaking, valuable. But of course, genetically engineered microorganisms, and in terms of carrying out the fermentation, also has its limitations. Like after certain cycles, if the mutation was not proper while doing the genetic modification, then they can lose their functionality, and the yield will drop even worse than the native ones. Okay. So I'm personally a fan of native microorganisms. I feel they do a wonderful job, because in our group, we have been always going to those contaminated sites and getting indigenous or native microorganisms and trying to regrow them under lab conditions, and they work better, because they are used to it. You're bringing somebody who is already used to the environment, so that's much better.
I know some people who are really big fans of.
I know genetic. Of course, I said that, but that doesn't mean that it is advancing in this way. Okay, and I think more specifically, if you want specific products, like we all know in pharmaceuticals, sometimes their interest is in a particular isomer. They don't want the other isomer. So if you want an isomer, and let's say you want alpha, you don't want beta, then there is genetic engineering can do wonders, because it can slice off that part of the microorganism in its cycle where it is producing beta. So yes, in some cases, yes, it can definitely help.
I think now, being a professor for many years, that is a long journey, and it has gave you were always excited at the very beginning, and then after maybe 5 years, 10 years, you start to see those things. So we always have some like preferable part or favorite part in your job as a professor, and I don't want to say boring part, but the least favorite part. So as a professor, what is the favorite part in your career or your job?
I think my favorite part as a professor in my career is research.
Okay.
I would say, and more so brainstorming with students. That really helps me, ignites my entire day, I would say. And more so connecting that research with my teaching. Helps me really, enrich the the teaching experience as well for the undergraduates. So I try to draw some examples from what we are doing in as part of research and interface it with teaching. That is also enriching,
The other side.
Other
What is
side.
the list? Let's not say boring. Let's say the least
I
favorite
think
part.
the least. Oops, that's a tricky question. I think it's the administration.
I would agree with you.
Yes. Going through a labyrinth of emails. For one point, I don't know, paraphrasing multiple times, like you become a paraphrase tool at some point. That is what I dislike.
I agree with you. What about getting a rejected fund after spending that much time?
But that still is, that is true. You're right. That is, but Dr. Elbishbishi, I have come to a point now in my life, at this stage, when you start off and it happens to you, as such, you're not able to write many grants when you're a young professor, then it's like the end of life, But at this stage, then I think to myself, okay, we will do it again and close the chapter.
Do you have other options?
Yeah, exactly. But, or maybe you don't have much time for brooding, I think now, which you have as a young faculty.
Not
Young faculty in another way, because you're not able to write all the grants.
Yes.
So you can only write select. And then if you don't get them, then you have to really think. You start thinking,
And you have to keep all the time up and trying and trying.
And I think probably that when I meant time was because you have less students, so you think more. Now you don't get time to think.
Exactly. I know. I remember that many times we just missed some good chances or grants because there is no time to write.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to write this. You bought the list, and then you have to select. So
you have to prioritize.
Then when you select one and you spend enough time to write the grant, and then at the end, not awarded.
I know.
Yeah, but still, we are enjoying writing the grant.
That's part of our...
but also we're enjoying other stuff because I believe that is all our life is not just the research. We have our own hobbies and activities. So what is your personal hobbies or passion?
Okay. Reading books.
Oh.
Okay, beyond research and science and I try to read whenever I get time. Now let's call it this way. So
what kind of books do you read?
I've switched from I used to read fiction up to a certain stage.
Well, that was when I was high school.
But not anymore. So now it's biographies and sometimes spirituality. Also,
That's a quite interesting answer to me because I'm a big fan of the Bollywood movies. I watch a lot of those. Indian
okay.
So, given the fact that your background is India, I thought that you're gonna say, singing or something because in all the Indian movies,
they are singing and dancing.
So yes, that's quite.
Dancing apparently comes naturally to Indians, all of them, even if they don't look good dancing, they dance. Elsayed, that's the way it is. You should see Indian marriages.
Okay.
Everybody dances.
Yes, that's what I said. How? I want to go live in India so I can dance.
Yeah, that's sort of, I don't know.
Natural for when you see this number of people on
true. I agree with you.
And all the actors can dance.
Yeah, that's true.
Quite interesting that is your main hobbies is reading. And that takes me, if you think about a historical character that you want to have a meal with, who would you choose?
Wow. Yeah, and it has to be an historical character.
No, anything. There's somebody I wish I would have a meal and have a chat with from the old days, recent days, not Bill Gates or Elon Musk.
No. I wouldn't be faculty then.
Exactly.
No. No, but then you would like to have somebody who is known, right? Who's well known.
Known to you, somebody like the character influenced you or something. Okay, I like this person because.
Yeah, we had a prime minister in India in the past. You may not be knowing. So his name was Lal Bahadur Shastri. Okay, very humble guy and very mediocre upbringing, but very good vision. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, and he is the one who promoted, who really respected agriculture, and you know, brought about many reforms in agriculture in India, and also respected the military. Not because I come from a military background, but he had this, I cannot translate that somehow in English. He had this one slogan which says, you know, you need the army for the defense of the country, but you need farmers to nourish the country. Yes. So, you know, he always brought about, because 70% of the country is agrarian. Okay. So you know, you cannot be just looking into the 30% and neglecting the 70% who feed that 30% as well. That is one personality. And the other one, I have been very lucky, the most important, him you might be knowing, Dr. Abdul Kalam. I don't know, I'm sure you would have. He is called the missile man of India. Missile. He was from the same, he was director of my defense research and development organization, where I was a very young scientist, you know. And he was also scientific advisor to the prime minister, and then he became the president. No words to explain anything to be told about this person is less, okay? Very down to earth. And I was very lucky with Dr. Mishra, my boss. We happened to meet him in person. Okay. And I have to tell you, he was the scientific advisor to the prime minister. He just lived in one bedroom apartment because he said he didn't need more. He's an unmarried, he was a bachelor. Okay, he's no more. And made his food himself. Okay. Yes.
That's just kind of
person of principles.
Brings to me Gandhi and those kind of.
Yeah. So very humble, and even when he used to give talk in our DRDO, when he comes as a chief guest to any, you should see people had to stand in the amphitheater. You know, otherwise, usually when some politician comes for talks, you know, especially in a scientific arena, you won't find many people attending those talks. And the way he used to connect to the students, you should see that. Actually, he passed away, just for your information. He was delivering a talk in an institute of engineering, and he had a heart attack on the podium. And that's the way he wanted to go. He always said.
This is his favorite.
Yes. And I think these are the two people. So it's always, you know, I am driven by people who have a lot of self-respect and humility, you know, despite so much they get and they have. So, yeah.
So looking now to the young generation and new generation coming, and now you are a professor, so you are recruiting students at different level, master, PhD, and postdoc. So what criteria, what are you looking for somebody who's contacting you to pursue their graduate study? What criteria are you looking for?
Excellence in research and the aptitude, the fire for research. I think that's all I look for while I speak to them. And also trying to have an amicable personality, you know, not being, of course, that's not easy to judge. You can ask me. I'm sure just with one talk. But at least some body language gives you, you know, slight indicator that maybe things are not right. Or I try to put a situation to them. How would they behave if this was the,
Okay.
some random situation I would pose to them in the lab. If it happens, how would they tackle it? So that sort of then.
So you do an interview with.
Yeah. And research excellence is important, of course, but that doesn't mean that I take every student who has only research excellence.
Yes.
I have met some students who have the curiosity, even if you look at their profile, it would look average on paper. But I have seen that they have this fire which sort of drives them forward. And I have had many examples of this kind also in my group. And they really did extremely well. Maybe they never got the chance also. That also happens, right?
I agree with you.
So that is also I do. I don't mean to say that I like only acers. Okay. And by the way, I don't think all the acers do well in research.
Yeah.
That's also a learning I did.
But how can you judge that excellent researcher for a master or a PhD? For a postdoc, to some extent, it's clear. But for a master student, how?
Master student, I think I more look into their curiosity.
Okay.
Like, are they curious? Are they, let's say I ask them any random question, let's say, I talk about greenhouse gases with them. And I ask them, what do you think can be done according to you? So that shows that they are curious to learn about at least the simple things which are happening around them, which are important to even lay people. So that helps me understand, okay, this student is, has an interest and would be, driven to do masters.
I know that you have supervised and you are currently supervising many PhD students. And we feel that all the time. Students come and said, we don't know what are we going to do after the PhD. Or shall we go to academia or industry? What would you answer some question like that if a PhD student comes to you and said, I don't know where to go after that?
I talk maths with them. First of all, maths comes second. First, I talk to them. I ask them, what is your interest? Because they have seen me also so closely, being a master's or a PhD student, how my day looks like every day. So does that inspire them? Okay. This is the way you would like to go. And then if they are still not able to understand or make a decision, then I tell them, then the maths comes in, and I tell them, only 20% of the PhDs end up in academia.
This is a big number.
Yeah.
Honestly,
you would say. 80% do other jobs, including industry or government sector. So even if, let's say, you are driven to go into academia and it doesn't happen due to any reason, destiny plays an important role. Maybe, I'm sure some people don't believe, but I do believe. So if it doesn't happen due to any reason, then, it's okay. There are other options. And last but not the least, I also tell them, maybe academia may look exciting to you at this point, even if you like my routine and the way everybody else, my colleagues, do things. But if you're looking for monetary achievement, probably this is not the path to follow. Okay. So that's another thing I make it clear to them. What are you looking for, So, because I think they have this maturity by graduation time, at least to know where they want to end up in 5 years.
So what would you advise your students if they decide, I want to go to academia, and another one, I can go to industry? What would you advise them to look at or to do during their PhD study?
So somebody who is interested in academia, then I try to tell them, you have to, of course, our regular traditional path of publishing, going to conferences, workshops. I even tell them you should try to, take a lead on some of those events where you can network and be in the, be known to people, okay? Yeah. And I also provide them, they fortunately these days they are lucky, I would say, they get these internship possibilities to go to another country, through our famous MyTax program. So then they can spend 3 months there with another faculty and they become their, sort of ambassadors as well. The other faculty, if they are applying in any position or even their future reference. And I tell them the more you can work collaboratively and the more in your publication you show collaborations internationally or nationally, it draws attention that you are eager to work with people and eager to bring in new ideas and integrate that into your ongoing research. This is for people who get into academia. For industry, the students getting in industry, although this I tell even for the PhDs, the PhD students also not going into industry, that they should have a big picture clarity of their research, okay? Even if, let's say, in the next year, their research will not be applied on field, doesn't mean that it doesn't contribute somewhere in the long run, let's say 5 years or 10 years down the line to something more big. So they should have this clarity why they are doing all this, not just to gain a degree. This is trying to resolve something, right? So this, I think, then the student who has an industrial interest then can picture it more from an industrial point of view. That is one thing. And then again, trying to have them, if possibilities, sometimes some industries approach, for internship, if they can do an internship with the industry. That's another thing which we try to do. And fortunately, we have the CREATE program. But now this year they ended the industry CREATE. Yeah. It doesn't exist anymore from this year onwards. So that is another avenue through which they could, do internship in the industry.
Yeah, and if I remember that NSERC engaged that they stopped that. Sometimes we were using it to say, go and approach the industry so we can get some.
Exactly. That was another good program. You're right. Yeah. Unfortunately, it stopped.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to our students who close to graduate and looking for a job? And job hunting nowadays is the biggest challenge for graduate students, especially the PhD holders. So it's very challenging. So what would you advise them? Because they come and ask, what should I do?
I know I go through it. I'm going through it right now with me, myself. So I know what you're saying. My advice to them is always be persistent, okay? Never give up, okay? And you need one job.
Yes.
You don't need multiple offers, okay? You will get to it. Yeah. But don't get discouraged, and in whatever direction you want to go, you're pursuing academia or industry, try to keep filling the space in that direction with the vital things required for that. So for example, let's say somebody's interested in industry and they have a time interfacing, why not do some small management diploma course, which will boost up their capacity in terms of
working on some other soft skills and other skills as well.
And likewise for PhD, why not do the ones interested in academia, try mentoring, try writing now research proposals, which they never got to do it during their PhD time. Yeah. So something of this sort. But I think the key criteria is persistence and resilience. Yeah.
So going back from a student who's going to graduate, looking for a job, for a student who's starting their graduate studies. So what would you advise a person who's starting their graduate studies, either as a master or a PhD?
To them, I say be consistent. I say be persistent,
Yes.
I say be consistent because consistency
Yes.
takes you a long way. Okay, but if you think that you can create a gradient in
Yes.
your work, doesn't help. It creates more stress. So I hope I explained properly what I meant. Because
Yes.
if they think that they can have a big gap and then they don't have to do much, and now they can do concentrated something. So that doesn't help. I keep telling them experiments can fail. This is part of the learning also. Okay, papers do get rejected. Also, once you submit, it's not that you have submitted and the paper will be accepted in one go. That is also some students don't understand. So I keep telling them that and tell them consistency is the key.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, we watch all of those fiction movies when we see the time machine. So imagine that we have a time machine
True.
and takes you back to the old days. Would you choose the same career that you are in now?
Yes, I'm sure I will choose the same career.
Okay.
I feel, I feel fulfilled.
So this is meant for you, this career.
Yeah, I feel so. I like I explained to you earlier, I like my day being versatile and dynamic, Now when I go out of this room, who knows? Maybe the spectrophotometer is not working. Okay, I know it annoys me,
Yeah,
but at least,
something needs to work.
Yeah.
No, but let's think about it. If you would choose another career,
Okay.
what would you choose?
Oh, good question. Never thought about it though. It has to do something, it has to be something to do with hands, I mean to say,
Okay.
I cannot be, something,
Not
something
an office career.
No. Maybe farming?
That's quite interesting. Yes.
Yeah. Because I can still see something coming out, right, when I do. Like if we are calling the students as, when they start their program with us as seeds, and then you see the plant, okay, when they're matured. So something in that, metaphorically speaking, on the farm. So yes, farming is bone-breaking work. It's not easy to do. I know that, but I think it's again fulfilling.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
That's
Every day is different there also.
yes. This is the thing that you are looking for.
Yeah,
Every day, every time is different.
Yeah.
So we came to the last
Yeah.
thing, that question. So this is your camera.
Yeah.
So if you could please look at this camera and give advice to our young researcher, what would you tell them?
Oops. Young researchers. Okay. Persistence, humility, and discipline takes you a long way into your life, professionally and personally. So I think we should inculcate these values. And in whatever field or wherever you want to go, I'm sure this will definitely help you in whatever era or period. That's all. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Satinder. It was really a pleasure talking to you. And thank you so much for being the first guest for our
My honor.
Step T. Thank you so much. Really
My
appreciate
honor,
it.
really.
Thank you so much, everyone. And this is the end of our first episode. And looking forward to see you next episode.
Yeah.
Bye.